Jeff Davis, be spontaneous.
Susan, how long is this speech?
Oh, good question.
5 to 7.
5 to 7. Okay.
Raise your hand if you've ever been caught up in planning something before. It's normal, it's part of life, and in fact, it's an important part of success. It's good to plan. I'm here to tell you, through the following stories, that planning may not necessarily be your best option. There could be a better route for you, and I'm going to explain that through these anecdotes that will leave you feeling enlightened and giving you an option to more easily flow through life. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, when I was a young child, I'm talking about elementary school, I was the shyest kid in the entire school. Not exaggerating here. I'm talking about sitting in the corner of the lunchroom by myself. I had one friend, and if he wasn't in, I'd be sitting by myself. I was that shy. It wasn't that people were avoiding me, I just was really in my shell. In middle school, I grew up in Newtown, Connecticut. I had a friend, and we had a lot of classes together, and one day he turned to me and he said, "You know what, Jeff? You don't really talk to anyone." And you know, it's those true statements that sometimes hurt the most. And I went home crying to my dad, "Dad, I have no friends." And that night, I realized something profound in my room. My entire life up until that point, I was caught in planning, and I had these lists of friends I would someday call, and I had these lists of events I wanted to go to, and people to meet, and networking events to go to, and games, but I never did it. The whole life was these endless to-do lists. My little brother would come up to my room sometimes and make fun of me. He said, "Jeff, what are you doing?" I had like stacks of to-do lists of all these plans that I would be outgoing and meet people, and I never did. And when I flipped the switch and I said, "I'm just going to do it, I'm going to stop endlessly planning," it changed my entire life. That next day I started to approach people. And it wasn't easy at first, but then I approached more people after that. And the following week I approached more people. And yes, it was awkward for a while, but I spontaneously went up to people without planning. Without getting lost in how to make it happen or what to say. I would just walk up to people, start a conversation, ask some questions, show some interest, and I ended up becoming a very well-known person in the town after being the shyest kid in the school. Came from just being spontaneous. After middle school, I went on to high school, and then in high school, I was in college. I decided to study abroad at my college's main abroad campus in Budapest, Hungary, in Eastern Europe. And on my third day there, I went to this huge bike demonstration with my Hungarian girlfriend. And we got an email from the administration that said, "We forbid you from going to this event." But I went anyways. I'm a rule breaker, so I went to the event. And by pure chance, by pure spontaneity, I met a business owner. He was biking next to me. He was a Russian man living in downtown Budapest. Got his business card. I ended up doing a full-time paid job with this guy. Full-time paid job. It changed my life. It's been in my resume. It's been brought up in every interview I've ever been on. No exaggeration. And it allowed me to fund my travels across Europe and Asia. I wrote a book about my travel. I just got back from speaking at the top travel conference in the world in Philadelphia, all because I spontaneously met this business owner. Up until that moment, I was so unhappy because I was so lost in planning. It was being spontaneous, flowing into the moment that I finally made it happen. I finally made the dreams come true by just putting myself out there, and so can you. I ended up traveling all around Western Europe, and in Paris, I had no plans and nowhere to stay, but I spontaneously met people. In Barcelona, I met up with a friend, and out of the clear blue sky one day we said, "Let's walk around the city," and by pure serendipity, we ended up crashing a wedding. And it was one of the greatest nights of my entire life. What happens in Barcelona stays in Barcelona. So the last thing I want to leave you with is that 5 months ago, just 5 months ago, I was in Morocco. This is in northwestern Africa. This is the 5th continent I've been to. And travel bloggers I read said, don't go out in Morocco at night. And to their credit, it makes sense. It's pretty safe during the day, but I get it. They weren't being ridiculous by saying that. But I'm a rule breaker. I like to test people's theories, and I like to stretch the edge of what's possible. So I went out at night in Morocco, downtown Casablanca, and I'm walking the streets, and just by pure serendipity, by being spontaneous, by having that mindset of not having any plans. I didn't even plan on going out that night, but I just walked the streets. Christmas Day, 2015, I walk into this small little shop. I was starving. I'll never forget. This was just beyond ironic. I sit down, there's a woman sitting across from me. Her name was Eva Smith, and we get up talking, and she says, Jeff, I'm an avid Toastmaster. After all of this fear and these travel bloggers, and don't go out in Morocco at night, it's dangerous, and you have to live by the rule book and plans, I go out Christmas Day 2015, this is 4.5 months ago, I'm in northwestern Africa. Her name was Eva Schmidt, raisingvibrations.org.